All right, well, that light's pretty bright, huh? Welcome to Floating World Studio, aka the Dirty Burger Print Shop. I'm going to pull a few little prints here quickly and then show you guys around the studio and go over different elements of the screen printing process quickly and let you know where I get my materials. And any other clues or tidbits that may come out of my mouth, we shall see. So get some coffee, have a hoot. I have. Now I just got to do, I've got an order for a print here that I was out of, so I'm just pulling a few of them real quick here so I can get the one order dispatched, and then I'll do more of them down the road. So I've got the first layer printed here of this Julian print. You can see the screen, and in this case I put both layers of this image on the same screen. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I only got about, gosh, maybe 6 good screens. Gosh, I got only 4, just 2 of them ripped. So yeah, if screens are a limited resource, then doubling up your things can be a good way to make them last. Alright. So this is a vacuum table. I got this made by a guy out west about, I guess it was in 2007 when I first started printing. It was like about 250 bucks. Like, he had to hand make the friggin' thing and drill all these holes. I mean, I wouldn't do that for 250 bucks. I'm meaning to make a bigger one, but, well, again, I guess I wouldn't do it because I'm lazy and not very handy in terms of like making wood stuff. But it's a simple enough idea. It's just like a sandwich of panels, and a vacuum goes in here. Oh man, vacuum sounding rough. This is also evidence that you don't need to be organized to produce half decent work. Like, have a look at this studio, if you dare. Now, it'd be better to be a little more organized, I'm sure, but I mean, it's not going to happen here. If I had more shelves, maybe it would happen. But each time I buy another shelf, it doesn't help. So who the fuck knows? Now, where was I? So there's a very little gap here between the mesh and the table. So it's often nice to put a little spacer. Now if there's, you know, I don't know, half a centimeter or something, so you'll get good separation from the screen and the paper after you pull the squeegee across. And all I've ever really used is the Speedball inks. I did use a different kind when I was printing in New Zealand one time, and they weren't as good. Like, they dried in the screen much faster, I recall. Some of the colors were nice. But you got these sort of liter-sized ones, and then these more like gallons. You can buy these, you save about 25%, you know, by volume. But one of these will last quite a while. If you're doing bigger pieces, then, you know, of course, you'll go through the ink faster, but I mean, per print, the ink used is almost negligible, but of course it adds up over time. There's different, Speedball has a regular black, like this kind of stuff, just the regular permanent acrylic. But then this professional black is way better. It's way more scuff resistant, which is super awesome. That's what we're going to use right now on here. So I won't bother with earplugs because I'm just going to be for a minute, but you might want to turn the volume down because this vacuum's a little noisy. All right. Actually, first I'm going to going to mask off the part of this image I don't want printed, just in case. And I would usually tape off these edges, but since I'm just doing like 5 prints, well, maybe I'll do the top one. Because the screen spends time like this, the ink tends to run back. So it just stops the ink from getting to the edge where there's no emulsion and bleeding through. I mean, as you may expect, you really want to control the ink. It gets out of control sometimes, but you really got to try to keep it like off your fingers and off just random surfaces. All right, vacuum in the hole. Now to hold up the screen, I just use my trusty roll of duct tape. Oh, here it is. I think there's better ways, but let me know. Now this piece of clear Mylar is handy, so it's anchored along this edge, so it's not going to move anywhere. So as long as it lies down flat in the same way each time, it's a good representation of where the ink's going to land. And it's very accurate. Dang, so this old emulsion, the emulsion I used for the screen was like pretty old and it didn't wash out very easily, and it didn't all wash out along that edge, which is super annoying. It's kind of part of the charm of screen printing, but sometimes it's less charming. You'd like it to be, you know, that's acceptable, although I'm not thrilled about it. I might even take a brush and like paint in a little bit of it so it's a bit less. But you know, over the years I've learned to like, I mean, you try to avoid mistakes or kind of fuck ups, I guess. But you know, I've learned to embrace them. All right, that's all I'm gonna do for now. When I get more emulsion, I'll reshoot the screen. So, now since the ink is water-based, you don't want it to sit in your screen too long. As long as it's moving, then it won't dry in the screen. But once you stop, it can dry and that can cause big problems. Basically, I think the ink locks in the screen and you can't get it out. Maybe there's crazy chemicals that can help you get it out, but I don't have those. So, collect the excess. And then I'll just squeeze the excess out of the screen here with a piece of scrap paper. I've got a bucket of water just over here. It's handy. Oops. So sometimes I'll just wash out the whole screen here and leave it in place. Sometimes I'll take it and hose it out with a hose. When dealing with sort of smaller areas and less ink, it's easier to do in place. When you got a whole bunch of ink on a big old screen, it can be a bit messier. So if you do it, well, wherever you do it, you need to make sure you get all the ink out, because again, it can lock in the screen and fuck up your screen. So I'll use it free, like after using that rag for a while, I'll put it to the side. Get a fresh one. Oh, my water sprayer is upstairs with the weed plants. This stuff is called Spray9. They use this in a studio I work at sometimes in Toronto. So it works really well for removing ink from screens. I'm going to pick up this tape. Ooh, that noise. So these, I've had these same hinge clamps since I started printing in 2007, and the threads are getting a bit fucked up. They get a bit weird sometimes, so I gotta do this to release them. Then we'll just clean up, clink off the rest of the stuff. Squeegee. So these squeegees, I use two suppliers basically. There's one out on Vancouver Island called the Screenprinting Store, and then there's one called, gosh, what is it? It's like JF and Sons or something like that. FH and Sons in Ontario. And they probably have a lot of the same stuff. FH and Sons is much cheaper for shipping for me here on the East Coast because it's so much closer, although it's still far away. I think the prices might be a little lower too, although, you know, straight up on the website. But at any rate, I got these from the Screen Printing Store out in BC, and they're nice aluminum handles. And you can, buy your. There's a variety of squeegee thicknesses or sort of hardnesses, and you can choose which ones you like. They got a bunch of different sizes, and I really like these things. I was using just a regular old. Where's that guy? Wooden squeegee. Like this is one I had from 2007. I bought a few of them when I first started printing, and the other two, the plastic got really hard over the last 15 years, like mega hard and cracked, but this one stayed soft. And I was using this up until a couple months ago when I finally bought these new ones. And yeah, no looking back. This one's retired now. Just gets to watch the action. The sides. Give them a nice joint. All right. So here, I'm just going to throw a lid on this, and then we'll go have a look at the exposure area upstairs. With the speedball inks, make sure you get the permanent acrylics and not, there's also a water soluble ink for paper that's out there by Speedball in the same looking containers. Don't get that unless you want your stuff to run when it gets wet. Speedball permanent acrylics for screen printing. So these are the screens I generally use. They're 20 by 24 inches. Is that true? Yeah, seems plausible. And yeah, I want a scoop coater that fits just inside with a bit of a gap. And once my screens are coated, I just keep them in this closet. And since this is my bedroom, I gotta share the closet with my clothes. Sometimes it gets a bit annoying when I don't want to let too much light in here, but the screens are actually, the emulsion's actually resistant to small amounts of light. All right, and here's my little exposure unit next to my little sort of video studio. I gotta put that weed in a jar. Shit. All right, stay focused. So it's pretty simple construction. Just a few tubes in a box. And here, let me turn it on. These are just regular fluorescent tubes. I'd like to upgrade to UV tubes if I can get them in the same size, and that would decrease the exposure time considerably. So you got your positives down, put down the screen, what I would consider face down. And then the contact's pretty good between the screen and the transparency in the glass, but there is a bit of a gap, which will cause your edges to be blurry, so it's good to, I use a nice heavy soft covered book to flatten things together. A bunch of books, stack them up. And for me, this is a 10-minute exposure using the Speedball diazo emulsion. All right, now here is my fancy washout booth. I'll bring the screen in here, pop it there, and with my hose from the backyard, I'll spray it out. So it's nice to have some backlighting in your washout booth, because then you can see much clearer where the emulsion is washed out and where it's not. Here, let's get closer. It's kind of like, if you put it that way, and spraying, you can kind of, it's much easier to see. I would love to have like an actual washout booth and an actual professional, like proper power washer as well. What the heck? And speaking of power washers, there's my little crapo machine. And so I run it in again through the back door here. This one, yesterday, normally it shuts off when you depress the trigger, but I stopped using it, took the hose off, but didn't unplug it, but also didn't turn it off properly. And then it came on its own and was running for God knows how long, and I think the motor's burned. So yeah, top tip, turn the thing off when you're finished with it. I gotta buy a new one now. There's also professional screen printing ones, but they're pretty darn more expensive, I think. Stay hydrated. Whew. Stay caffeinated. Whoa. So other points of interest. Gosh, I had a list and now I don't know where it is. There it is. So screens, check. 20 by 24 I recommend is a good manageable size to start. Ink, check. Emulsion. So I used Speedball diazo emulsion. I don't think it's like deemed to be all that great within the industry, but it works fine for my purposes. And what I like about it is you can get it in just 1 liter containers, and the rate I go through the stuff is pretty slow. So that just works for me. And I guess I'm dialed in terms of exposure time with the Speedball stuff. I'm open to trying some other stuff. I've heard there's ones now where you don't have to keep them refrigerated. Some you do to make them last longer. Anyway, there's a lot of options. There's like 100 friggin' emulsions out there, so I don't friggin' know. The Speedball works well. But for screens, definitely not from Speedball. Their screens tend to be wooden, little shitty things. Paper. Art paper is friggin' expensive. Man, oh man. But at I order mine from Aboveground in Toronto. Got these sheets here. I think they're 20 by 28. Nice thick, like nice and thick. I think it's 300 GSM. I don't know if it's pure wood pulp or a mix of wood and cotton, but these are $1 each, 99 cents. And so I buy, 2 or 500 in a go, and that lasts me a long time. It seems to be an ongoing, like, consistent price, although I feel it might not last forever. Like normally, most art paper is that size. I mean, they could easily be 5, 10, 15, 20 bucks for like fancy, cotton stuff. They're nice, but not really in my price range. And one of the great things about Aboveground is their shipping rates. Like they're in Toronto, and it's 15. It sort of varies, but it's like $10 to $15 flat rate to send any amount of stuff to me here in Nova Scotia. So that seems, that's unbeatable. But this is called Jacob's Cover. There's a warm, and then there's there's two shades, like a brighter white and a warmer white. This one's like the slightly warmer one. Yeah. And Aboveground is where I also order my Speedball inks from, although there may well be better options. But again, because of their cheap shipping, it I guess it's convenient and doesn't seem that bad. Huh. That might be just about it. When I first started printing, I bought this paper cutter here. It needs a bit of oil, but man, this thing is my prized friggin' possession. I bought it maybe 15 years ago for about, it feels like 1,200 bucks. I was shocked at how much paper cutters cost. It was more than I was expecting, but this is a nice metal one from Germany. I love it. You can still only cut, I only cut 3 of these pieces of paper at a time, which is still slow enough, but without this it would be like, oh my god, it'd be such a drag preparing it. What the heck? Back in a sec. That's where the screen fell over in the bathroom / washout room there. Hope it wasn't ghosts. I don't feel there's ghosts in this place. I'm not really into ghosts in general, but some places are spooky and make me question things. This place doesn't do that most of the time. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed a little tour around the studio and the screen printing process. Yeah, if you have any questions, just leave a comment below. And get printing. Don't delay. It might seem complicated, but once you have the variables dialed in, like how long to expose for, what your sort of limits are on detail, could take a bit of getting used to. But just start without doing super fine detail, and you'll have success, and then you can sort of work down from there. I mean, some of my stuff, when you're planning, okay, I'll do a different video about planning for a print and preparing your positives and I guess design considerations for screen printing. But really, it's super versatile. Some stuff people do, it's so detailed that it blows my mind. I can register within a millimeter perhaps, but no when people actually print photographs from doing from cyan, magenta, and yellow and black layers, like the variation, like the tolerance for error has got to be practically nothing. So it's like, I don't know how people do that. Anyway, party on, guys. Talk soon.